So I had a guy that came up to me after my last presentation at the Investor Success Summit here in Denver. There were about 400 real estate investors that attended that event. And he said, hey, would you be willing to share with my audience the number one thing to getting their money right? And I said, you have to create a budget. Neville Goddard, who's the author of the book, The Power of Awareness, has a couple of really good quotes in that book. The first is, by changing your conception of yourself, you will automatically change the world in which you live. Think about that. The other quote that I love is, change or accident is not responsible for the things that happen to you. The power of awareness. The power of awareness will immediately change your financial future, which is why it is so important to budget. And what I find is when people hear the word budget, they automatically associate it with things like diet. It's another word we hate. But sometimes just knowing your diet, what you eat, is going to help you make better decisions with your behavior. And I find the same is true with your budgeting. Use the cash flow cruncher we give you. It is one of the single best budgeting tools that exists on the face of the earth, and it is completely free to you, our YouTube audience. Thank you so much. Make sure you download your copy. We're gonna go ahead and walk through that cash flow cruncher here today so that you can see the value with which it brings. And person after person after person, almost all unanimously agree that the exercise of completing and keeping an updated cash flow cruncher will change your entire financial future. Enjoy. Alrighty, so I realize that some of you have not gotten one of the single most popular budgeting tools available, not to mention it's free, and that is called the Cash Flow Cruncher. So what I want to do today is walk you through the process of downloading your very own copy. It comes in the form of an Excel spreadsheet, so it's very easy to use, and it's quick to navigate. So let's go ahead and walk through that process together. The first thing you'll do is in the search menu, you'll go to cashflowcruncher.com, which will take you to the download page. Simply type your email address into the field to claim your free copy and go ahead and select the red button. Immediately it'll pull up the download button, which will open a new Cash Flow Cruncher spreadsheet. Now you can see I've already got a copy open and enlarged here for you to see. The first page it'll open is the Cash Flow Summary tab, which is a non-editable page. It's very important to understand that this opening tab will not require you to put any information into these fields. This actually imports the data from the other tabs below. Now, if you've ever used an Excel spreadsheet, you'll navigate the spreadsheet by going to individual pages down here. And it'll start with the revenue and assets page. On this page, you'll want to itemize each individual income that you bring into the household or the business. Now, it's always been my recommendation that you create an individual cash flow cruncher for your businesses, an individual cash flow cruncher for your real estate, and an individual cash flow cruncher for your household. These are treated as separate financial ecosystems. So you could put primary income here. Now, there are two ways of filling this out. I generally recommend putting this as your net take-home income initially. It's much easier to do it that way. And don't forget, if you're paid every other week, for instance, every other Friday, you technically receive 26 paychecks per year. So you'll want to take, if you're paid every other week, your income, your gross take-home income, multiply that times 26, and then divide it by 12 months in order to come up with your average take-home income. If you're paid infrequently, such as commissions, you'll also want to be using averages as well. So we base most of our information on these cash flow crunchers on average revenues and average expenses, since they often will fluctuate throughout the year. So as a primary income, if you're using your take home versus your gross, you'd simply put the take home income in and you'll list any additional income sources that you have. Now, the more specific you are, the more you'll find value in this cash flow cruncher. And when we're being specific, we're trying to be as conservatively realistic about our numbers as possible. So in order to err on the side of caution and create as many pleasant surprises down the road as possible, we certainly want to make sure we're rounding for the worst to us in order to be conservative. So let's say that we bring in 2 sources of income here for a total of $4,500 take home. You can see that we have FICO scores A and FICO scores B to account for a joint person household. So you'll put in the varying credit scores, and oftentimes many people will rely on the Vantage credit scoring provided by free sources like Credit Karma versus the actual FICO credit scores provided by Fair Isaac. And that's because you don't have to pay to receive those credit scores, whereas you do generally have to buy your FICO scores unless they're provided by a credit card creditor or a bank that you currently do business with. So you'll put your various credit scores to start off your consultation, which you'll have access to by the end of today's video. Inside the rest of this revenue and assets page, you can see that we've created sections for investments, sections for retirement accounts, sections for cash. And when we talk about investments, this is actually going to be alternative types of investments, not real estate investments. You can put your real estate investments down here in the assets field, and you'll also account for them on the debts page if you do have mortgages associated with those current properties. In the cash section, you can lump all of your totals together. So you could put Chase Bank, and you can put a total of all of your accounts inside there. You can select whether it's checking or savings if you want to specify which accounts they're in. And you can separate these all out into aggregates should you choose to. On the debts page, you'll start to account for your liabilities. These are any debts that you have, both non-mortgage and mortgage-related balances. And normally we will separate these out into street addresses. Okay, you'll put a balance into the column, in the appropriate column of each property. The value is the estimated value of the home. The original is the sales price that you purchased the property for, and then the mortgage payment, including just your principal and interest. Taxes and insurance will be noted here on the personal expenses page. Mortgage type is usually the term. The due is the day of the month that it is required to make your payment, and the percentage of interest that's associated with that balance. And you'll include all mortgages here individually. And so forth. Lines of credit will include both secured and unsecured lines of credit. So this will include home equity lines of credit, whereby you'll input your balance along with any limit that is associated with that specific line, including minimum monthly payments. Same goes with unsecured and even business lines of credit if you're filling out a business-related cash flow cruncher. Now, one of the things people really enjoy about this specific tool is the fact that it will calculate for you how much money is still available and what your utilization is. You can see on this home equity line of credit where we've used $2,500 of a $50,000 limit, there's another $47,500 still readily available. As for this business line of credit, where we've hypothesized a $15,000 balance compared to an $18,000 limit, it's showing just $3,000 still available for use. The minimum payment obligations relative to the balance owed will calculate what we call a target rate. One of the things that makes this cash flow cruncher so uniquely special is that we have calculations and formulas here that help us determine the best course of action for attacking and eliminating debts. The higher the target rate, the bigger the impact against our cash flow. So this is an incredibly important formula which no other budgeting tool we found includes. You'll then put your auto loan inside here, or multiple auto loans should you have any. And usually we separate these by labeling the actual vehicle itself. The value of the vehicle obviously is speculative, and then the monthly payments will also be calculated along with the interest rate associated with that loan. And then we go through and we itemize each individual credit card that we have available. This is not just accounts that have balances. While we do typically list those in order from highest balance to lowest, we still do want to include accounts in here that have a $0 balance. So let's say, for instance, we have a $12,100 current balance on an American Express account. Let's say we have an existing $1,500 balance on the Citi account. And let's say, for instance, that we have a $0 balance on our Citi account, with the limits being $15,000, $10,000, and say $2,000. We'll highlight here, again, some of the takeaways that you'll find by having this increased awareness regarding your overall financial snapshot. In total, we have 27,000 available with 13,600 being used, and you can identify here the overall utilization on each one of those accounts. As we continue to fill this out, you'll find the target rates also will be calculated here for us as well. And also down below, where we've got a combined LTV. This is totaling the loan to values on your properties, which is very helpful when considering various applications for things like home equity lines of credit. And in addition to these totals at the bottom of the page, you'll also find that the total available credit is noted along with the combined utilization of each of these, which helps you manage your credit scores and your overall borrowing strength as well. So our motto obviously is credit, capital, and cash flow. Those are the areas that we're always focused on optimizing. And for that reason, this specific spreadsheet caters to those priorities. We're then going to visit the personal expenses tab, where we can easily itemize each individual household expense that we are required to spend each month, so we can manage an ongoing budget. Now, this is where we're going to obviously rely on averages. These are your monthly averages throughout the year. Things like automobile repairs, automobile registration, various tolls and parking, of course, car washes. These types of expenses especially vary throughout the year, as does some of this here. Things like babysitters, food, eating out, things like lunches, beauty and cosmetics and hair care, taking care of ourselves. Anytime we donate charitable contributions, costs of medical, pet care, and these expenses vary almost every month. And therefore, again, looking back over the last 6 to 12 months, sometimes even longer, is a very important exercise in order to determine what numbers you should be putting in here. Most people can have this cash flow cruncher completed in under 30 minutes. Now, if it takes you longer than 30 minutes, that can be somewhat of a drag, but it does go to show you just how many moving pieces you have to work through, and also potentially highlights that you're not necessarily focusing on it as much as you should. If you have these details readily available at your fingertips, then normally you're on top of things and it won't be as difficult to fill this out. There is a business expenses tab as well, but as I mentioned previously, I do recommend separating your personal household cash flow cruncher from any business cash flow crunchers, as well as from your real estate portfolio cash flow crunchers. When I'm talking about a real estate portfolio, I'm talking about investment real estate. You can go ahead and put your primary household inside your personal cash flow cruncher. One of the most popular tabs here on this spreadsheet is the loan calculator page, whereas you've seen in many of the videos here on this channel, we actually showcase just how much faster and how much less expensively somebody can attack and eliminate long-term debt like mortgages. And this is where you can come in and start to play around with applying things like lump sum payments. Let's say that on this $290,000 loan amount at a 5.2% interest rate, we were to take $30,000 from a debt weapon and make a lump sum payment to this mortgage? Well, this loan calculator would clearly demonstrate that that one decision alone could have a $91,000 impact on our total interest saved over the long run. In fact, this would knock off a total of 76 months and a total of 6.33 years from the long term of this 30-year loan, which is pretty impressive. So you can come in and you could toy with this. Let's say you wanted to do that every 10 months. Well, on month 11, you apply another $30,000 lump sum from the debt weapon after this original lump sum has been paid back. And immediately you can see with just those first two moves in under 1 year, that $290,000 loan is going to end up costing us almost $150,000 less in future interest costs. So this is, of course, a very, very popular addition to this tool. And finally, we have the action steps page and the financial future tabs, which you can visit once you have your free copy in hand. One thing I've loved about this cash flow cruncher is once all of the data has been input, it will immediately come to the cash flow summary page and it will import all of that information so that by the bottom, you can see what our total net cash flow and gross cash flow positions are. Once we're debt free and we have $4,250 left over at the end of each month, you can see the financial future here becomes very good. And we can input different numbers into this rate of return field so that we can toy with what the future impact will be on all of our growth over time. And this is basically showcasing the power of compound interest, which is over here in this field. So guys, I hope you really enjoy using this cash flow cruncher tool. It's free as a gift from us to you for being a subscriber of the channel. So make sure you are, if not already, a subscriber. Go ahead and hit that smash that subscribe button. And in addition to that, make sure in the description below, you go ahead and visit the calendar in order to access your one free coaching session where we will look over this cash flow cruncher together in order to determine accurate timelines, realistic timelines with which you can accomplish your both short and long-term financial objectives. We look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy your cash flow cruncher. Make it a great day.